take 5 minutes for faith.
I was just reading a study on peace, people having peace of mind, that was done a while back by Duke University. In that study, they concluded with 8 different factors that people need to know in order to have peace in their lives. Now, I'm sure, didn't mean to have a religious list or it be biblically based, but the irony is that when they finished, they came up with 8 things, all of which are right out of the pages of the Bible. That's not surprising to me, because the New Testament promises to the people who follow Jesus Christ peace that passeth understanding. Now, the Bible talks a lot about peace, and I think that sometimes people get happiness and pleasure confused. Pleasure and happiness are different. Pleasure is something that comes to our lives in moments of our lives, sometimes sort of spread out, but happiness is something that's deeper, it's inside of us, it's more consistent. And I think peace is a better synonym for happiness than pleasure is. Now, the writer of Proverbs, or Psalms rather, in Psalm 34 and 14 says, "Seek peace and pursue it." Well, anyway, the study from Duke University contained this suggestion or this idea. From their study, they concluded that in order to have peace, you have to avoid suspicion and resentment and the carrying of grudges in your life. That's pretty interesting. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, one of the characteristics of love that is given is that love thinks no evil. Well, that's a banker's term, and the idea is of keeping of numbers, of keeping record. I counseled with a couple one day who were having serious marriage problems, and we sat down together, and I said, "All right," to the husband, "now tell me, why are you here? Tell me what the problem is." And he reached in his pocket and he took out a little book where he'd kept dates and times and every infraction that he found in his wife. He had a memo of it, a note of it, and he began to read down from this list of things over a long period of time. And you know what? That's what 1 Corinthians 13 says, don't do. Furthermore, the chapter says that love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Bears all things means that I work very hard to think the best of people. I mean, you know what's going to happen if you let grudges build up inside. Have you done that? If you let grudges build up inside you, what happens is that you start to hate people. And you don't want to do that. You know, you take to hating somebody and he'll own you. I mean, even when he's nowhere around, why, he'll dominate your thoughts. You go to bed at night and you won't be able to sleep, and you'll toss and turn and your stomach will churn, and before long your heart will turn black, and you don't want that to happen. One of my favorite passages in the Old Testament is Genesis 41 and verse 51. It's about Joseph, and Joseph is a fascinating character of the Bible. So much of the book of Genesis is written about him. You remember when he was 17, he was sold by his brothers into slavery. Joseph knew what it was to be a slave. He was in Potiphar's house for perhaps a decade. Then after that, he was a prisoner for at least a couple of years. He knew how to be a son in his father's house. He knew how to be a slave. He knew how to be a prisoner. But then when you get to the latter part, Joseph knows how to be a king too. Anyway, he rises to power, second only to Pharaoh himself. People bow down to Joseph when he rides by. Well, anyway, in Genesis 41 and verse 51, Joseph is holding his baby Manasseh, and he makes this remarkable statement. He said, "God has caused me to forget all my toil and all my father's house." I love that. My. So far as Joseph knew, his father was in on selling him into slavery. Joseph didn't know at that time that his father wasn't in on it. He knew his brothers were. They didn't care if he died. They didn't care what happened to him. And it's been lo all these years and no contact. They've attempted, so far as he knows, no contact with him. A lot of pain in that boy's heart, a lot of grief, a lot of baggage in that man's heart. And yet now, standing there with his wife Asenath and holding that baby Manasseh, and he has this wealth, all of these blessings from God, and he says, "God has caused me to forget all my toil and all my father's house." how did God do that? How is it that God caused Joseph to forget all those painful things and the grudges that he could have kept? And the answer is, here's the answer, is that Joseph focused on all of God's blessings. And I'm telling you that you only have so much capacity in your heart for either gratitude or pain. And the more you fill your heart focusing on the gratitude that you have to God for all He's done for you, the less room you have in that heart for those grudges of what people have done against you. And that's how Joseph got past those things. Don't be filled with resentment and grudges. Don't let that take your heart, because it'll come to no good. Ephesians 4:32 says, "Be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you." I hope you have a great day.
Speech on. Lock rotation. Switch selected. Screen recording. But